People say that light is both a wave and a particle, as though it exists somewhere in between. But when I explain it, I say it's neither wave nor particle. It's something entirely different. And if you fail to grasp that distinction, you aren't truly learning quantum mechanics. You're memorizing a flawed metaphor. Let me clarify what light actually is, because this whole story about wave-particle duality that gets repeated everywhere, it's wrong. Not slightly off, but fundamentally incorrect. And it's presented in nearly every physics lecture as if it's scripture. Light is both a wave and a particle. You've heard that line. Everyone has. It sounds deep, enigmatic, very quantum, profoundly philosophical, but it's pure fiction. Light is not a wave. Light is not a particle. Light is not simultaneously both. Light is not one or the other. Light is something else entirely. Something our everyday vocabulary lacks a proper term for. So we lean on analogies. We throw out terms like wave and particle since they're concepts you already know. But these comparisons fall apart. They deceive. They give you the illusion of comprehension when in truth you remain in the dark. I'm about to reveal what light truly is. Not the version printed in textbooks, not the watered-down interpretation, the authentic physics. And it's going to feel bizarre, because light is bizarre. The natural world is bizarre. And trying to cram it into neat, familiar boxes is the root of all the misunderstanding. Let's rewind through history, because that's where the misunderstanding took root. The 1700s. Newton argues light is made of corpuscles, tiny projectiles racing across empty space. This accounts for why light moves in straight lines, casts crisp shadows, and refuses to bend around obstacles. Plausible enough. But then a contradiction emerges. Thomas Young conducts an experiment, the double-slit. He directs light through two thin openings, and on the rear surface, he doesn't observe two distinct bright spots, as particle theory would predict. Instead, there's an interference pattern, bands of brightness and darkness in alternating sequence. That's classic wave behavior. When two overlapping waves meet, they interfere. Crest reinforces crest, trough cancels crest. The result is the exact pattern Young witnessed. So, case closed. Light must be a wave, correct? Not corpuscles. Waves. The 1800s. Maxwell formulates his famous equations, electromagnetism. And remarkably, what emerges from the mathematics? Waves. Electromagnetic oscillations. Light is precisely that, an electromagnetic wave. Electric and magnetic fields pulsing in tandem, rippling across the void. Beautiful, elegant, mystery resolved, except it's not resolved at all. The early 1900s, Planck is investigating black-body radiation. Objects heat up, they radiate, increase the temperature, the radiance intensifies, and the hue shifts. Red hot, then white hot. There's a spectral distribution, a curve of intensity, and classical wave theory predicts this curve with total inaccuracy. It forecasts infinite energy at the shortest wavelengths, the ultraviolet catastrophe, patently absurd. Planck resolves it by proposing energy is emitted in discrete bundles, quanta. Light isn't a seamless, continuous wave. It's released in individual packets. Each packet carries energy proportional to its frequency, E cross H, F. Planck's constant multiplied by frequency. The mathematics align with observation, yet Planck himself hesitates to accept it as physical reality. He assumes it's a convenient computational trick. Surely light remains a wave fundamentally. This quantization is just a side effect of atomic emission mechanisms, not an innate property of light itself. Then Einstein steps in. Photoelectric effect. Direct light at metal surfaces, electrons are liberated. But here's the anomaly. The kinetic energy of those ejected electrons isn't tied to the brightness of the light. It's governed by the frequency. Blue illumination launches faster electrons than red. Regardless of how faint the blue source or how intense the red, this defies wave logic. Wave amplitude should dominate. More intensity, more energy imparted to the electrons. But that's not what happens. Einstein declares light is quantized, not merely the emission mechanism, but the light itself. Light consists of discrete particles, photons. Each photon possesses energy h and f. When a photon collides with an electron, it transfers its entire energy package. One photon, one electron. Intensity merely reflects the rate of photon bombardment, but each individual interaction is particulate. So now we've circled back to particles. Newton wasn't wrong after all. Not entirely, because the double slit stubbornly persists. Young's interference fringes are undeniably real. You can replicate it today. Shine illumination through paired apertures. Interference manifests. That's definitive wave behavior. Particles don't interfere with one another. So what's the answer? Wave or particle? Both. Neither. Right here is where the fog rolls in, and humanity has remained fog-bound for a century. Here's the standard textbook answer. Light demonstrates wave-particle duality. Occasionally it mimics a wave, occasionally it mimics a particle. Which face it reveals hinges on how you measure it. That sounds profound. Complementarity. Bohr adored this concept. The wave and particle portraits are complementary. Both are essential. Neither stands alone. You cannot witness both natures at the same instant. The measurement itself decides which nature emerges. But I'm unsatisfied with this framing. It's overly fuzzy, excessively abstract. What does sometimes wave, sometimes particle genuinely signify? At what exact moment does it choose? How does it know what type of measurement you're performing? Let me offer a superior perspective, a far more rigorous interpretation. Light is neither wave nor particle. Light is a quantum entity. It operates according to quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics never claims objects are waves or particles. Quantum mechanics asserts that objects are characterized by probability amplitudes, complex numerical values that progress under defined laws. You derive these amplitudes. You square their magnitude to yield probabilities. Full stop. That is quantum mechanics. Occasionally, when you compute these amplitudes, the mathematics echoes wave equations, interference, diffraction, superposition. Thus, we say it's behaving wave-like, but it is not a wave. It is a quantum entity whose probability amplitudes happen to exhibit interference. Occasionally, when you register light, you register it in confined, indivisible units, distinct clicks in a counter. One photon, one click. Thus, we say it's behaving particle-like, but it is not a particle. It's a quantum entity whose probability amplitude has resolved into a specific localized registration event. The wave behavior characterizes how likelihoods are spread throughout space. The particle behavior characterizes how detection unfolds in discrete packets. But the essence underneath is neither. It's quantum amplitudes. Let's make this tangible. Double-slit configuration. You illuminate two adjacent openings. What transpires? The classical wave perspective says the light wave permeates both slits, fragments into twin wave fronts. These fronts converge and interfere at the detection plane, sculpting the banded image. The classical particle perspective says each photon traverses slit A or slit B exclusively. You anticipate two concentrated strips behind the slits. Both depictions are incorrect. Quantum mechanics asserts each photon carries a probability amplitude for taking slit A and a separate amplitude for taking slit B. These amplitudes accumulate, they interfere. The amplitude interference determines where the photon is most likely to strike the screen. Yet the photon doesn't permeate both slits like a dispersing wave. Nor does it pick one route or the other like a classical bullet deciding its trajectory. It executes something that eludes classical terminology. The amplitudes interact. That is the accurate narrative. You register the photon at a singular coordinate on the screen. Click, localized, looks particulate. But the likelihood of that click's location emerges from interfering amplitudes. Looks wave-like. It is neither. It's quantum. Here's the aspect that genuinely unsettles me regarding the wave-particle duality vocabulary. It seduces people into believing light toggles identities, wave sometimes, particle other times, as if it shapeshifts moment to moment. But that's not the reality. Light remains consistently itself, a quantum object. What shifts is our mode of interaction, our measurement technique, our description of what we record. When you refrain from monitoring the photon's slit selection, the amplitudes for both routes interfere, and an interference mosaic appears. People label that wave-like. When you do monitor which slit, you collapse the amplitude distribution. Now interference vanishes. You observe two concentrated zones. People label that particle-like. But the light didn't transform. Your measurement transformed. Your handling of the light transformed. The light merely executed what quantum objects perpetually do. It progressed under quantum prescriptions. Let me illustrate with another instance that exposes the deception embedded in wave-particle phrasing. Consider an electron. Electrons are traditionally classified as particles. Yes, they carry mass. They carry charge. They're spatially compact, undeniably particulate. Yet feed electrons through a double slit, one electron at a time. Gradually accumulate the pattern. Interference fringes appear, just as with photons. Does this render electrons waves? Will we now assert electrons also embody both wave and particle? Yes, that's exactly the mainstream claim. All matter exhibits wave-particle duality, the de Broglie wavelength. Everything is dual. This is paraded as foundational doctrine, yet it's the identical confusion repackaged. Electrons are not waves. Electrons aren't classical particles either. Electrons are quantum objects. Their probability amplitudes interfere. That's why interference patterns arise, not because they're waves, but because they're quantum. You can replicate this with atoms, with molecules, with increasingly massive entities, provided quantum coherence endures, provided you avoid dismantling interference via decoherence, interference patterns will manifest. Not because these entities are waves, but because they're quantum objects whose amplitudes engage in interference. The wave vocabulary descends from classical physics. Classical physics acknowledges two categories: particles and waves. Particles are confined. They occupy definite positions. They trace paths. Waves are diffuse. They carry wavelength and frequency. They diffract and interfere. These were the sole options in the classical framework. Thus, when quantum mechanics arrived and displayed conduct fitting neither mold, efforts began to cram it into those predefined bins. It's both. It shapeshifts. It has a split personality, but this is erroneous. Quantum objects are neither classical particles, nor classical waves, nor some fusion. They constitute a third class, the quantum class. They adhere to quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics is not reducible to classical wave theory or classical particle mechanics. The mathematics of quantum mechanics entails complex amplitudes. These amplitudes progress according to the Schrödinger equation, or in quantum field theory, according to field equations. When extracting probabilities, you square the amplitude magnitude. When multiple trajectories or alternatives exist, you sum the amplitudes before squaring. That summation is what births interference. That's the entirety of the narrative. There are no waves in the classical sense. There are no particles in the classical sense. There are probability amplitudes, and they comply with explicit mathematical regulations. So why perpetuate this terminology? Why is it still embedded in educational materials? Because it serves as a functional approximation. In specific regimes, the quantum object approximates classical particle behavior. In others, it mirrors classical wave phenomena. The mathematics parallels wave equations. Thus, as an instructional scaffold, we invoke wave-like and particle-like behavior. It assists learners in linking to familiar terrain before plunging into full quantum formalism. But it's a temporary support, and if you never release that support, if you persistently conceptualize in wave-particle terms, you will never genuinely internalize quantum mechanics. You'll languish in a conceptual limbo where everything is mysteriously both and neither, contingent on observation, consciousness, metaphysical speculation. That isn't physics. That's bewilderment. Here's my instructional approach. I bypass waves and particles entirely. I commence with probability amplitudes, complex numbers encoding magnitude and phase. They evolve temporally. You sum them when multiple roots are available. You square them to obtain probabilities. Then I illustrate with cases, double-slit interference. Not because light is a wave, but because amplitudes from two trajectories combine. And when you square the resultant sum, interference emerges. The pattern arises from amplitude superposition, detection, discrete clicks. Not because light is a particle, but because upon measurement, the amplitude collapses to a singular result. The detection event is indivisible. You construct the framework this way: amplitudes, evolution, measurement. No waves, no particles, just quantum mechanics. And when students internalize this, they cease interrogating, is it wave or particle? They stop attempting to visualize an electron's appearance. They abandon the notion that observation conjures reality. They recognize quantum mechanics as a calculus for probabilities. You possess amplitudes. You evolve them. You forecast results. Everything beyond that is interpretation. Philosophy, not essential for doing physics. Now you may inquire, what is an amplitude? What does this complex number physically represent? I cannot answer. No one can, and that's acceptable. The amplitude is a mathematical construct enabling probability computation. We understand its manipulation. We know its rules. We align predictions with experiment. They match flawlessly. But its deeper ontological status, I cannot define it. Perhaps the amplitude is physically real. Perhaps it's epistemic. Perhaps these classifications are inadequate. Physicists have debated this for a century. Copenhagen, many worlds, pilot wave, cubism. Each perspective has advocates. Each confronts difficulties. Experiments do not arbitrate among them. Thus I refrain from obsession. I calculate. I forecast. I test against experiments. It functions. That suffices. But I guard my vocabulary. I do not declare light is both wave and particle. That's deceptive. It implies light toggles between two classical identities. Instead, I say light is a quantum object. It operates under quantum rules. Occasionally it resembles waves, occasionally particles, but it is neither. It is quantum. This phrasing is sharper, truer, less disorienting. And clarity matters, because when you convince yourself light is wave and particle combined, you begin posing misguided questions. You begin imagining observation dictates existence. You drag consciousness and mysticism into the conversation. I've witnessed this firsthand. Individuals extract wave-particle duality and proclaim quantum mechanics proves reality is fabricated by the mind, or awareness generates the universe, or wishing manifests matter. Absurd. Quantum mechanics articulates no such thing. Quantum mechanics prescribes amplitude computation and probabilistic forecasting. The wave-particle metaphor, when embraced too literally, derails comprehension. Thus, I exercise discipline. I select language with care. I underscore the mathematics, not to drain wonder, but because I desire people to encounter authentic physics, not a caricature, not a diluted, sensationalized version. Light is not a wave. Light is not a particle. Light is a quantum entity characterized by probability amplitudes. Occasionally, those regulations yield wave-like configurations. Occasionally, they yield particle-like detection episodes. Yet the substrate remains quantum, not classical, not hybrid quantum. And if you absorb that, genuinely absorb it, you've embarked on the path toward quantum literacy. Not perfect mastery, no one attains that. But accurate, unclouded by the distortions of forcing quantum phenomena into classical containers. That's my mission in teaching. That's the insight I wish everyone possessed. Quantum mechanics is peculiar, yes, but it is not supernatural. It is not paradoxical. It is simply divergent from classical expectations. Learn its regulations. Compute with amplitudes. Anticipate outcomes. Validate against experimentation. That is physics. Not by baptizing it wave or particle or hybrid, but by addressing it as what it undeniably is, a quantum object following quantum laws.